16th rhythm is just everywhere. It's just over and over and over and over. If I had to name one thing that beginning composers do not do enough of, it's repeat their ideas. I think a lot of people are afraid of being boring, and they think if they repeat their ideas too much, the people are going to zone out or stop listening. But really, repetition is the key to a better piece of music. It makes it easier to develop and work with your ideas. Your listener is able to follow what you're doing, and you're giving your piece an overall identity. If you keep changing your ideas too quickly and too often, it doesn't feel like it's developing and reaching new exciting places. Instead, it feels like it's wandering, and it's like you don't really know what the point is or where you're trying to go. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 classic themes by John Williams and how he uses repetition much more than you might even think to create a cohesive, interesting theme. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ryan. I'm a composer for film, TV, and video games, and this is where I like to talk about and figure out and work out how writing music actually works. For more videos about film scoring, music theory, composition, all that good stuff, please remember to subscribe. So the first theme I want to look at is Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter. So the basic idea for the theme is right here. Usually we say that a theme has a 2-bar basic idea. Because of the meter and the tempo, this is just expanded double that, so it's a 4-bar basic idea. But if you look at the overall shape, it's still functioning the same way a basic idea for a period or a sentence would function. And the main idea here has 2 licks or 2 motives that are going to be reused. One is this, and the other is the. These 2 different parts are going to make up everything else that we see in the rest of this theme. And if you listen to the original track, it's going to be heard in accompaniment parts and B themes and all sorts of other places. But these 2 licks are going to drive pretty much everything else going forward. So the first time we hear it, we have this. And then we match that with what we call a contrasting idea. But if you look at it, it's not that contrasting, because although the harmony contrasts and instead of going up it goes down, that rhythm is identical. These bars and these bars have the exact same rhythm. This is even copy-paste the same bar. It's even the same pitches. The only thing that's different here is instead of going up a 5th like he was here, he's going up a 3rd and then down a 5th instead of where here he went down a step. So the rhythm and the contour is exactly the same. Our ear recognizes that. We hear contour and rhythm much more than we hear the specific pitches. So if you're keeping the overall shape the same, but changing those little pitches and those exact intervals, that's a way to be repeating without actually just copy pasting and being too boring. So now when we come back in bar 9 to repeat the basic idea, we can see the first 2 bars of it are exactly the same as how we started at the beginning of the piece. These 2 bars and these 2 bars are identical, except in this case, because we're going to be driving towards a cadence and driving towards some of ending, this time he reaches towards a climax and a high pitch for the theme, which he then comes down from until we reach our climax. This A sharp is a nice little diversion, but if you look at the top, we can actually see and there's just a few little dips under here and there, but overall there's a pretty simple shape of just going from our high point descending back into our tonic of the E. The other thing to notice about this is we have lick 1's motive rhythm here, exactly how it was before, and we also have this happening here. So we have it here, and then it repeats here, and then it repeats here. So we have lick 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and we have motive 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, just glancing at it. There's a lot of repetition. There's very few notes here, if any. I don't think there's any notes here actually that don't participate in some way with either this rhythm or with this rhythm. Everything is covered under those 2 motives. Even when he goes off to new climaxes, even when he has a cadence, everything is part of repeating those shapes and those rhythms. So let's listen to the whole theme. Next, let's look at the theme from Indiana Jones. So this is a very familiar theme, and part of what makes it so familiar and catchy is this rhythm and how often this rhythm is repeated. It really gets in our ears. So obviously this is our main opening basic lick, and this is our whole basic idea. This here gets repeated within the basic idea itself, just down a step. And this little dotted 8th, 16th pattern we have here comes back again and again and again. We can see it here, 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 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times just in this first statement of the theme. Then this whole 8-bar theme repeats with a slightly different ending, and the B theme even uses this lick as well. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-da-da-dum. So this dotted 8th, 16th rhythm is just everywhere. It's just over and over and over and over. People who are afraid of being boring by reusing things should look at this as a great example of no, you keep using that identifying thing because that's how people know this is Indiana Jones. If you heard just the first 4 notes of this lick in any other context, you'd know it was a reference to Indiana Jones and you would get it. And it's that repetition that is helping you know that you can really identify, where does this come from? Where do I know this? Oh yeah, it's the Indiana Jones theme. So the only difference for most of these is where it starts. So this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one are all the rising step up, exact same contour. They're just starting on a different pitch. The only time it breaks is after we've heard it many, many, many times, is here now we're going up a 6th and we're outlining an arpeggio. Other than that, it's exactly the same everywhere you hear it. So let's listen to the whole thing. And you don't get sick of it. Nobody is bothered or annoyed by that rhythm happening over and over and over. It's what keeps it interesting, kind of counterintuitively. By having that same lick and in just slightly different ways, it's more interesting to listen to. If you kept changing it and changing it and changing it, we kind of disengage. We can't really follow, like, this doesn't have anything to do with anything I've just heard. I don't know where we're going with this, and we'll tune it out. The next one I have is Princess Leia's theme, and this is another example where he has 2 different motives that repeat in different ways throughout the theme. So you can see in Princess Leia's theme, we have 2 licks. We have this rising 6 in the beginning, and then we have this little kind of arch 16th figure. Everything else in this theme is based on those 2 licks. That's our basic idea. When we repeat that basic idea, we start in the exact same way with motive number 1. And motive number 2 just reaches to a slightly higher point. But it's very easy for us to hear, oh yeah, that's the same thing, it's just a little higher. The contour is the same, even the intervals are the same as far as going up seconds and down seconds. We really recognize it. When we get to this point where he's going into the continuation, this time he actually does an octave instead of a 6. But as I said before, the actual interval is less important than the shape, and it's very clear to us. This is the 3rd time we're hearing this lick. It's very familiar, and now it's just reaching to new heights. I think in some ways maybe think of it as if you had a different actor coming in to play your character many, many, many times throughout your movie. It would be really disturbing and really confusing and hard to follow. And so that's what's happening if you're taking your lick and you're changing it too much. All of a sudden you're just giving it to a completely different person, and sometimes people are going to be like, wait, who is that? Do I know them? Is this even the main character? It's these subtle little changes that you're taking your main character into maybe a different costume or maybe entering a new scene, but it's still the main character. So in this case, this is still our main character, even if it's everything about it, to that little pickup, to the rising high leap is, oh, and the repetition on that top note tells us, okay, this is the same character, I'm still following what this is. And then it's the same thing with the second motive as well. This is the first time it's a little different. Instead of repeating this note on the second time it comes down, it's such a slight difference that you don't even really notice it unless you're thinking about it. And then that becomes the new norm, as we come here on a lower pitch, but it's the new way to say the thing. And then here, it's the new way to say the thing. The only thing that doesn't come directly from these motives might be the lead into the cadence here, this kind of repeat of that idea where these come up. But I think it's pretty obvious. You can see that that and that have a lot in common. It's just the direction has been flipped. It's still 16th notes. It's still stepwise movement. I don't think you could really argue that those are not coming from the same original motive. So again, there's just so much repetition here. And then the last one I want to look at is the Schindler's List theme. So here again, we have another theme where there's two motives that are kind of driving everything that comes after it. In some cases, the variations are pushed a little further than some of the other ones I think we've looked at, but we can see even just starting, our first motive is these fifths right here, which comes back exactly here, comes back pretty close here, and here, and here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in our theme without doing anything more drastic than just like a slight pitch higher, a slight pitch lower. 5 times just doing that. And then our second idea is this one here. Right here. And we can see that that one changes a little bit. It's a descending from a high point down to a low point. The next time we hear it, it's crunched in. So the shape is still the same. It's still going down. It's still on these eighth notes, but instead of the wider, it has now become, and every time after that, this one turns. I think it's pretty easy to follow that this is a pretty close cousin to this. So I've talked about in another video where people just develop their ideas so quickly away from where they started. You can see here it's much more followable if it's much more subtle. So here we had going down, becomes, it's so close that we get it, we can follow it. But it's also that when he does that slight variation, it's not then that he's now gonna vary that one and that's gonna change into something else, He's gonna come back to where he had it before. So it repeats. So other than this little variation here, we get back to our descending seconds. So the variations are happening within the piece, but they're not leading us astray. They're not just helping us wander into foreign places that we don't know how we got into. What I will look at is this lick, which I think is kind of interesting. I would argue that this is, in a lot of ways, a variation on this lick right here because of the repeated note on beats 1 and 2 and the leap down. We don't actually get that quite as much anywhere else. So it's a bit of a stretch, it's a bit of a farther variation, but is still, to my ear, very obviously related, especially because of that repeated note and because of the leap down and back up. I feel like that's still a pretty close cousin to where we were. This one too is slightly stretched, it's slightly pushed where the pattern doesn't quite match, but again, we're on these 2-beat eighth notes the whole time under a single bow. Phrasing here, again, it's again that idea that it's not too far away. It is some variation. So this one, in a funny way, this one has the most variation of all the other themes we've looked at, and it still has hardly any variation at all. It's still, everything here is just so obviously part of the same piece. It's all part of the same original ideas, just changing, an interval here or there, changing a shape slightly, but not drastically. It's not like all of a sudden this was with staccato notes and 16th notes and an arpeggio pattern in, an open voicing. Everything is still pretty darn close. So of the whole piece, I would maybe argue that, bar 2 and the first part of bar 4 are a little different. And everything else just belongs to that first bar. And like I said, saying those don't belong is a bit of a stretch because even those are pretty close. So let's listen to this whole thing. So I didn't really cherry pick these examples or plan on using these examples when I had this idea for the video. It was pretty clearly just, oh, I know John Williams is going to do this well. Does he do it on this theme? Yes. Does he do it on this theme? Yes. It really wasn't hard. I could probably find you 200 more examples of themes he's written that use this repetition idea, just so tight-knit, keeping those same ideas consistently throughout the theme, and in most cases then throughout the transitions, throughout the B sections, the codas, the intros. Everything is just so often repeated. Someday I'll do a whole video on Duel of the Fates from Phantom Menace because the repetition in that thing is just crazy. Every single idea from the ostinato to the melody to the epic choir parts all come from a single root source, and it's just super effective. It's an awesome track. And obviously it's not just John Williams who does this so well, but his examples are familiar and they're very accessible and easy to listen to, so I like to use them. So please let me know in the comments about your writing. Do you repeat your ideas enough? Do you feel like you're afraid of being boring and you're looking for ways to overcome that? I'd like to hear from you, and I'll see you next time.